Hey everyone, welcome to this Forge College Explainer. So if you hung out with us in our last lesson on common attack vectors and patterns, you've got the theory down pat. Today, we are taking that theory straight off the whiteboard and orchestrating a highly controlled, purely educational digital heist. That's right, let's dive right into this and actually reproduce a simple reentrancy exploit so you can see exactly how the bad guys operate in the wild. Here is our blueprint for today's controlled exploit. We'll be setting up the heist, meeting the target contracts, executing the attack, analyzing the trace evidence, verifying the exploits, and finally, wrapping up the case. All right, Section 1, setting up the heist, the sandbox environment. First things first, definitely put on your safety goggles here because we are strictly operating in a local Hardhat simulator. Absolutely no mainnet stuff today. Safety first when we're playing the digital cat burglar, right? So to pull this off smoothly, we need our heist dossier. We've got 3 exact files here. First, the VulnerableBank contract, which, well, has a fatal flaw. Next, the ReentrancyAttacker contract, which acts as our digital lockpick. And finally, our exploit test script, which is basically going to automate this entire operation from start to finish. Moving right along to Section 2, meet the target contracts, the bank versus the thief. Let's take a closer look at the blueprints of our target and the custom tool we built to crack it open. Check out this contrast. On the bank side, we've got some seriously flawed logic. It literally sends the money out in an external call first and then updates its internal ledger second. Now, look at our attacker contract. It is incredibly opportunistic. The very second the bank sends the money, the attacker's fallback function gets triggered and it dives right back into the bank to ask for another withdrawal entirely before the bank gets to step 2. It's kind of like a bank teller saying, hold on, I'll update your account balance in just a second. But, well, in the world of smart contracts, a second is way, way too late. Okay, Section 3, executing the attack. Pulling off the heist. With all the pieces in place, it's time to run our Hardhat test script and actually set this plan into motion. The execution is just a simple 4-step flow. Step 1, we deploy both the bank and the attacker contracts into our simulator. Step 2, an innocent user drops 1 whole ether into the bank. Step 3, our attacker makes a tiny, seemingly harmless deposit of just 0.1 ether. We gotta do this just so the bank thinks we're a legitimate customer. And finally, Step 4, the attacker pulls the trigger and calls the withdraw function. Now, think about this. The attacker only risked 0.1 ETH. That's it. Just a tiny fraction of what that innocent user deposited. But thanks to the glitch we just spotted, the bank is completely, totally drained, literally empty. Which naturally leads us to ask, wait a minute, how did a 0.1 ETH deposit just drain the entire bank? Like, how exactly did the thief walk away with the whole shebang when they only started with a fraction of that in their account? Let's find out in Section 4, analyzing the trace evidence, the security footage. To figure out how this heist actually succeeded, we need to review the blockchain's equivalent of security camera footage. Let's roll the tape. Our security camera in this local simulator is a command called debug trace transaction. It's this fantastic Hardhat tool that fetches highly detailed transaction trace output. By running this on our local node, we can see the exact frame-by-frame execution of the exploit. We can literally watch the crime happening in slow motion, call by call. And wow, the evidence is pretty damning. It clearly shows the attacker's contract repeatedly diving back into the withdraw function. Since the bank sends the ether first, it triggers the attacker's fallback function, which basically just screams, hey, withdraw again. This creates these nested call frames in a continuous loop. Basically, the attacker is just mashing the ATM withdraw button over and over again, way before the bank's internal ledger ever gets a chance to deduct a single penny. All right, Section 5. Verifying the exploit, the post-action checklist. A successful heist needs some verification, right? So let's run through our criteria to prove the exploit worked exactly as we intended, without any weird hiccups. Kicking off this post-action checklist confirms we've got a textbook reentrancy attack on our hands. First, we clearly see the nested call frames in the trace, proving our control flow manipulation worked like a charm. Second, we see state inconsistency. This means the recorded balance didn't change at all, while the money was literally flying out the door. And finally, the balance delta. The bank's balance is drastically lower, and the attacker's balance is, well, significantly higher. Now, I really want to emphasize this. That state inconsistency is the absolute smoking gun of a reentrancy attack. In a normal, expected state update, the balance should drop to zero immediately after that very first withdrawal. But look at the actual inconsistent state we created here. The mapping value remains totally frozen, equal to the initial deposit, throughout all of those nested calls. The bank's internal ledger is basically frozen in time while the vault door is just propped wide open for repeated payouts. It is incredibly dangerous. Which brings us to Section 6, wrapping up the case. Lessons from the heist. Now that we've successfully reproduced and verified this exploit, let's close the case file and talk a bit about defense. To prevent this exact heist in the real world, you absolutely must adhere to the golden rule of smart contract mitigation. Checks, effects, interactions. It's simple. You check the conditions, you update your state effects internally, and only then do you interact with external contracts. If our bank had just done the math and deducted the balance before handing over the cash, this entire operation would have failed instantly. So, let's do a quick recap. The real critical vulnerability here is ordering. External calls before state updates are a massive red flag. Also, remember that transaction traces are your absolute best friend for proving these delayed state updates. Oh, and for your homework, make sure to save your trace output as the transaction demo artifact. Keep all these takeaways in your back pocket, save that artifact, and get ready for our next lesson, where we're going to turn these signals into a rapid auditing checklist. So, I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. How will you apply this structural blueprint to spot the next reentrancy glitch out there in the wild? Think about that as you wrap up your local tests. And hey, don't forget to visit forge.college for more deep dives, Web3 topics, and explainers crafted right here at Forge College. Thanks so much for joining me on this educational heist, and keep on building securely.